Hi guys, welcome back to How to Write an Argument Essay. This particular portion is going to talk about types of evidence. Again, this is Mrs. Bostic, and we are working with PV Online through the Paradise Valley School District. All right, here we go. Types of evidence. When you are crafting an argument essay, there are many sources you can use to identify credible arguments or evidence. Evidence can include information you collect from reputable internet resources, as well as from books, social media, TV, or personal experience. The real crux of the argument is that you're actually going to do some research. So research is a valuable tool to help you form your claim and counterclaims. An important part of the argument process is learning about the other side's argument so that you can defend your ideas as being more valid or more right. So basically, the more research you can do and the more information you can have about your particular argument, the better your argument will be. A claim. We talk about claims a lot. A claim argues, convinces, proves, or provocatively suggests and must be debatable with evidence. It is not a personal opinion or feeling. A claim defines your writing's goals and directions and will be supported by evidence, including expert opinions, statistics, and quotations. For our purposes, we're going to use a claim and a thesis statement in a very similar way. But once you have your claim, then you're going to work on counterclaims, which we'll talk about in a second, and you'll use that to build your argument to support your initial claim or thesis. So again, your claim will work as your thesis for the entire paper. A good claim is specific and asserts a focused argument based on evidence that can be debated. A good claim addresses the so what question, the implications, and why the reader should care in the first place. Once you have your claim or your thesis figured out, then you have to start doing your research on a counterclaim. A counterclaim is where you introduce the opposing argument. So this is where you're going to want to look at what people would say to argue the opposite direction of what you've decided to argue. A good counterclaim summarizes the opposition's viewpoint openly and honestly. A counterclaim acknowledges parts of the opposition that are valid. So if you see something in the opposition's research that you say, wow, that actually makes kind of sense, but I still want to go with the opposite argument, you still need to at least acknowledge that particular argument that did look valid. You want to acknowledge that some of the opposition's claims may be valid, but your argument or claims are stronger. The counterclaim is where you counter the opposition's argument and you introduce the rebuttal of the concession argument. Your concession argument is the part where you say, wow, this might actually be valid, or I like the way this sounds. So what you want to do is you want to take their valid argument, but you want to refute that opposition's claims and show that they are incorrect or inconsequential. Thus, you're basically explaining why their counter argument is not a real problem. So, where do you look for evidence to help form your claims and counterclaims? One great source for finding evidence for your claims is current events. You can use news sources, the national, local, or world news, credible magazines, credible news sites. We're going to talk about things that are credible. What that means is you don't want the Inquirer, or you don't want even something like People magazine. You want something that's recognized as being accurate and something that has some kind of journalistic merit. Another place you can look for a claim or counterclaim or in history. So common knowledge is our most common way of knowing history. How do you know this stuff? Well, you've learned it in a history class. But you can always look up the historical facts and information as well. So a couple good websites, one of them is biography.com. That's a great website that has credible information. Another one is history.com, another one that has great information. You can always use sources like pbs.com as well, as far as trying to look up historical credible information to support your particular idea. This one is fun, social observation. You can use experiences that you've had with your family or with your friends, your peer groups within your community. All of those types of things are valid as points of evidence. So if you know somebody who had something that fits into what your topic of conversation is, then you can definitely use that as part of your evidence. The same goes for personal experience. If you've had something that actually happened to you, you can certainly use that as one of your claims or as evidence for some of your claims and counterclaims. It's a great use, especially when you're in a timed writing, because it's something that you have readily available. If you are in a timed writing, like let's say for the SAT or for a standardized test, you're not going to have access to books or the internet or things like that. So this is where personal experience can really come in handy when you're writing an argument essay. Of course, for English teachers, we always love literature. It's anytime we use literature, we don't care what you're using it for, but in this particular case, you can always use literature as one of your sources for your evidence. So in this particular case, I picked the Hunger Games, the trilogy, as the picture for the page, but it can be classic books, it can be things that you've read in your English class, it can be modern books or modern novels, it can be poetry, plays, basically anything that falls under the literature category is anything that's well written. So you can use any kind of book, stories from books, things like that, as evidence for your particular arguments. Just remember that you do want to sort them properly and say where the information's coming from. Another favorite piece where you can actually get information for your sources or for your evidence and claims is pop culture. You can use examples from TV or videos or music or even social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Pop culture is a wealth of information that is readily available to you. So again, if you find a hard source, it's always good to reference that and say where you get the information from. But even if it's just common knowledge that everybody knows that Tom Cruise has a daughter named Suri, you can use that information as an open format as long as it is that common knowledge and that pop culture. Last but not least, we have our hypothetical option. The hypothetical option is the best if you really don't have a great example, but you can maybe make up an example that would fit the argument that you want to work with. So let's just say that your topic again is animal testing, and you are looking at it and you're saying, well, I've never actually witnessed animal testing, but here is why I might be opposed to it because of thus and so. If you can come up with a credible argument that seems legitimate and one that you recognize and note as being just a hypothetical idea, you can certainly use it within your papers. Alright, so now we've talked about some different options for your types of evidence. Hopefully this will help you to form your argument essay. If you have any questions, please email your teacher. Alright, again, this is Mrs. Bostic, and I will talk to you in the next tutorial. Have a good one.